Hello everyone, and welcome to this latest video discussion as part of the RICS Tech Partner Programme. My name is Andrew Knight. I've been working with RICS for nearly 12 years now, and I work within the knowledge and practice area of the organisation, looking at the effect of data and technology right across the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 qualified members working worldwide, right across the property life cycle through land, planning, development, construction, operation, finance, valuation, building and asset management and end of life, and indeed working across all the major asset types of land itself, residential, commercial, alternative assets and infrastructure. There's a huge opportunity to use data and technology to improve the way we work and the service we deliver to our clients. And I'm really happy to be joined today by Sethebe from GoSmartValue. So please do join me.
Hi.
Hi, great to have you on the call today. And before we get into the kind of technology and the data side of things, it'd be great to hear about a bit about your backstory and the kind of origin story of GoSmartValue.
That's great, Andrew. So I am a real estate expert or professional, as it would be, graduated from the University of Cape Town, BSc Property Studies. My journey sort of went right into property investment. So I started off with property management, went up into asset management, and then eventually was running a property listed company. So I have gone through the cycle of investments, and I've done a few master's degree here and there, and basically ran a few other businesses along. So that is me in a nutshell.
And how about the origin story of GoSmartValue? What made you start? What was the origin?
Yeah. So it's that particular journey that got me there. So essentially, as both a property manager and asset management, one of the key things that I did was risk assessment and investment analysis for all the other ventures that our clients were going into. And a big challenge all the time, whether it's looking at a new jurisdiction, a new asset class, or whatever, was research. It was such a problem just to look at an asset that's in another country, to figure out, is there a market for whatever it is that you're being sold? Are you buying this property at the right price? Are the rentals realistic, and all of that kind of stuff? So when I left corporate, that was the thing I wanted to provide. I wanted to provide that not only to real estate practitioners, but also to financiers, because the other kicker was, once you've done all of that investment proposal analysis, whatever, when it now needs to go to bat for financing, then bank adds a premium to your asset, and it might just kick out the entire analysis. So it was, how do we make this easier? How do we make financing easier for areas that don't have high transactions? And the easy thing is providing that information, providing all of those analytics, whether that environment or that location is a bit quiet, at least there is some historical transactions to work off of. And that's really how GoSmartValue was born. It was to provide that that solution that financiers can be able to look at to validate information, and also not give us such high premiums. And also for real estate experts to look into and be able to provide the information, provide proper advisory services without having to do that much legwork. And also for the clients to also be able to refer to an independent source of information. Transactions happen easier if everybody's starting from the same place.
So it sounds like you're essentially providing data and analytics to finance sector, and are there other kind of clients who are using the data?
So the finance sector is the main one, but yes, we do provide information or data to the investors, especially when they're still at the preliminary stage of determining which location they want to go into, which asset classes they want to go into, or when they're reviewing a proposal where you just want to know, is this real? Does this make sense? Should we even consider this offer? That kind of thing. So we do assist there. And for valuers, it is entirely making that valuation process less tedious, making all of the comparables available, making it easier even for the new entrants to generate a valuation report with some guide, knowing what you need to have in a valuation report as you do it, and it's automatically generated. So it makes life so much easier to be a valuer with this.
And what sort of data and technology are you using to kind of provide the solution?
Yeah, so first it is all of these records. So we keep track of all actual transactions as they happen. That includes the actual transaction, the location. So we geotag them so that we can see specifically which location, what's happening in each location. Bonds that are registered, so we know what kind of lending is happening in which area, what is the volume of lending that is happening there. And then we mix it up with things like crime rates in specific areas, demographics, traffic, all of those things come into play in determining whether one location is highly demanded than the other and what are the other aspects. So right now we collect quite a lot of information and then we try to dissect it and put it in different formats to suit whoever is looking. So the banks will obviously be more interested in the financial risk. The valuers will be more interested in the property performance. And as a buyer, if you are a new buyer, you just want to know, will I be able to resell this? Am I buying at the right price? But for the major investors, it's really about the rentals. Are they doing what they say they should be doing? Is this area a high performing area? That kind of stuff. So we sort of dissect it for everybody and make it customized.
So it sounds like you're using almost a mix of approaches to generating valuations, from comparable evidence to obviously pricing data and other locational factors. Is there a single approach to valuation, or are you, as I said, mixing a lot of different inputs?
Oh yes, definitely. It's a mix of various data sets. So we connect them at the plot number. We connect them at, so our thing is, most people would talk about the core connectors being maybe an individual and what their activities are. What we track is the property and all the transactions that are happening around it, all the things that are happening around that property, so that no matter how many years later, you should be able to see everything that has happened with that particular property.
And what have you done in terms of the kind of technology and features that you think has made your approach different to perhaps other kind of solutions out there?
Yeah, so this is what we have done. So apart from just the data, we try as much as possible to customize the end product. So as opposed to just saying, okay, this is what this property's rental is like this, and therefore this is how it performs, or like, how does it perform in comparison to what's happening in that area? Is there room for more? How many other types of properties of that nature is there? And then more especially for the financial institutions, where they're looking at which area are they highly exposed in, which areas are they not highly exposed in, looking at things like checking overcapitalization, which is quite a very common thing, especially across the continent, especially when it has to do with development. You find it overcapitalized in an area that's really not doing much. They're able to pick all of those things up. And the nice thing that we've done is everybody sort of feeds back. So when valuers do valuations, when they add premiums, reduce premiums and all of that, it also provides feedback to the system so that it's able to see this is the trend that's coming out in this particular area and adds more value to other users.
And do you have a particular market that you're targeting in terms of either, you mentioned finance as a big sector, are there particular targets in terms of countries or regions, or indeed asset types, residential versus commercial, for example?
Yeah. So we haven't divided between the asset classes. So it's all transactions that are happening. We'll probably be able to deduce more information for what's happening in specific markets because we collect all of the information and we divide it accordingly. But our specific market is financiers of real estate. That's who we target and the kind of information that they need to provide funding. And this includes residential all the way through the commercial. So that, remember, the core thing that really affected me was how do we get funding to all areas? How do we make sure the right kind of resources is done in the right place? How do we make sure that the right kind of developments are happening in the right place? And it's really coming from who the bank chooses to finance, and we just need them to choose more people in more places.
Indeed. And how's that sector of the market adopting this kind of approach, this much more technologically data-driven approach?
Okay, so we've had at least, I mean, we launched GoSmartValue in 2020. So for the past 2 years or so, the reception has been good in that they were interested in the solution. And then we have to go through the whole process. When you're getting into the value chain or the services of a bank, it's always this back and forth, a lot of it. So we've had all of that. We are right at the end of a lot of that with a lot of the banks, which is pretty exciting. So I think in terms of the adoption from the financial institution, it has been really tremendous. The openness has been quite tremendous, and the feedback has been quite tremendous also. So the solution that we pitched to them back in 2020 is definitely different from what they are going to be coming in, because we've been having those back and forths, those trials with them and moving forward. And it's been such a great support that we have gotten from the financial institution. It's amazing.
That's good to hear. And in terms of kind of industry standards, have you based and made sure your solution is matching any kind of industry standards?
Yeah, definitely. So we, as much as possible, follow the Red Book. We also follow the IVCSE regulations in that regard and make sure that all the key components that are required are there. And also, most importantly, is ensuring that the information has got high integrity that we put in, because we will be affecting a lot of the market if we don't have that. So those are the three sort of cardinal points that we make sure that we always keep updated of, and make sure that as we move forward, we always keep these borders to make sure that we're providing a good service.
And how are you seeing the kind of value that you're adding to your clients? What kind of things are you hearing from them in terms of what they're able to do differently and better now?
Well, the first thing is an improvement in accuracy, higher in accuracy of valuations. And then there's also the higher sort of risk management capability that they're able to zone into a specific area, so they get more information, higher transparency, which makes it a lot easier for them to make their decisions. Also makes it a lot easier for them to position particular investments, because now they've got things they can compare to, they've got other transactions to compare to that are outside of their universe. It's now global that they're able to compare with. And also just an increased understanding of how the property market operates, because essentially before, everybody is operating in a silo, but if everybody's looking at the same kind of information, that silo is sort of broken, and people are speaking from the same point. So it's really amazing what we have, the feedback that we have been getting, and we hope to be able to have a much more transparent market, and hopefully a less volatile one, if one would call it that.
Yes, no, that makes perfect sense. Well, you mentioned it obviously fits well into a kind of a credit risk management strategy. What other kind of insights or observations have you discovered as you've developed this hand in hand with your clients?
Yes. Yeah, so the fun thing was, when we first did the instant property valuation, we didn't have a specific use for banks. Initially, it was for individuals, it was Zillow type. But as time went, we found that the banks actually needed to value their portfolios on a much more regular basis in order to make provisions for them the like. And that's one of the great things. I mean, in terms of the credit management, that's one of the things that they have looked forward to. It's one of the things they have fully engaged on, so that they are able to do those bulk valuation at the anniversary of the loans that they already have issued. And it also makes their provision much more accurate. And that's one of the great things that they've been able to do in terms of credit management. The other thing is that we haven't, in our automated valuation platform, we haven't closed out the valuers. So valuers are able to do the valuation on the platform. So then they get access to that global information. So that makes it a lot easier for the bank to manage. It makes it easier, less arguments between the financier and the valuer, the internal and the external valuer. And definitely much more cohesion in the market, and that's exactly what credit wants. They want to be able to recover. They don't want to be shocked by the lack of recovery at the end of the day. And also when it comes to identifying, especially now when the property market is not doing well, identifying which areas that property prices are dropping quite significantly, they're able to have reduce their exposure going forward. Because they can see that the prices are going down, but we are highly exposed in that particular area. So those are the different credit risk management use cases that we have seen.
And in general terms, has the market changed much since you started? I think you mentioned you started in 2020, so we're kind of 3 years down the line. What sort of changes have you seen in the market that you hope you've driven yourselves?
Well, for us, it's the adoption to technology is very slow, especially for the retail market. But we are seeing much more interest. We are seeing growth in understanding what's happening in the market. We are seeing a much more, I remember initially we used to run these small seminars with clients where we would say to them, the sale price is a wish price for the seller. It's not the transaction price, so you need to negotiate. We're seeing more of clients understanding that, hey, I can negotiate, and it's not a common thing, especially here in Botswana. We are seeing higher levels of transparency and therefore more realistic transactions happening. And also people understanding that it honestly is a willing buyer, willing seller. Nobody has a gun to your head to buy at a particular price. So there's an increased understanding of the market on the retail side. And then also just the full transparency, understanding the lend rates versus the building costs and all of these things is increasing. And we are having less and less discrepancies or disparities between one value and another because silos are breaking down. If we're all speaking from the same point, then things become more common.
Indeed, no, that sounds very positive. And where do you see the sector going in the future?
I definitely hope there's what I hope as an entrepreneur. I definitely hope there'll be more digitization. I definitely hope we would have a more predictable market and as best as possible without having transactions that shock everybody in the market. Like, what's the basis of this particular transaction type of thing? But in terms of what we are seeing happening is that definitely the need for technology, the sophistication of the client is increasing, it's improving, and therefore there's a greater burden on practitioners and companies such as ourselves to provide more, to deliver more to the client base. We don't yet do things like development, predictions and things like that, but it might be something that we can go into, or there could be another company that provides that kind of service in Botswana. So there is a greater appreciation of the influence of data in the property market. And that's really good for us.
Yeah, no, that's very positive. And what are you personally at GoSmartValue working on now for the future?
So we are looking at right now how we can integrate the transactions that are happening within a property. So we have got the without, but we want the within. We want to know to be able to integrate billings, but the utilities, rates, all of those things, so that we have a full component of what one would actually be buying. If it's going to be analyzed for, is this house better than the next one? We want to be able to provide all of that analytics in there, and that's really what we are working on most immediately. But there's other, obviously, improvements that we continue to do. We are improving their interaction with the platform for valuers. We're improving the interaction of platform with the corporates that we certainly hope will be a continuous effort until and forever.
Well, it's been brilliant to chat, and it's been so heartening to hear how data and availability of quality data is creating a much more transparent marketplace, which I think is such an important piece for every jurisdiction, to make sure data is available there for people, as you say, to be willing buyer, willing seller, and have the information they need. So for today, it's been great to talk, and I look forward to catching up again soon. But thanks ever so much for your time.